Hello, and welcome to this live stream production from Caffe Lena, the historic listening room in Saratoga Springs, New York. Today's free stream is made possible by the generous support of the Sarah B. Folk Charitable Fund, as well as by the Adirondack Trust Company Community Fund, Kevin and Claudia Bright, Polly Set, and our Virtuoso and Lifetime members. You can watch past episodes.
We're going to talk about her work and what it's like to be the leader of a nonprofit organization. And what I'd like to do first is actually just quickly go around the room to see who's in the room, to see what organizations we have represented here today. So I'm going to repeat what you say on the mic because this mic won't be able to hear you. So who do we have?
Hi, I'm Mike Marconi, General Manager at the Glove Theater in Gloversville.
Oh, wow. Okay, Glove Theater. Yep.
Kathleen Parrott, board member at the Glove Theater.
Oh, that's wonderful. Great. And Liz from the Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Elaine Pickett. I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for Key to Independent Growth in the New Journey's Day Program.
Great. All right.
We're from UPH, actually.
I didn't pay them to be here.
Go UPH.
Beauty.
Production manager over
Great.
UPH.
Great.
I'm Gabby, I'm the lighting person.
Great.
Karen Good, I'm Operations Manager at Universal Preservation Hall.
All right.
Nathan, I'm the sound engineer.
Cool. So we have an amazing foursome here from Universal Preservation Hall that make the shows sound and look sweet. All right.
Angela Calvoni, LifeWorks Community Action, Director of Community Services.
Great.
Chuck Visconti, Rockmont Record Club.
Philip Morris, CEO of the Proctors Collage, which includes UPA.
Just another little local nonprofit organization.
No pressure.
And back on the couch.
Rose, musician, poet, and a member of NSAW, political therapist.
NSAW, what is that?
The National Association for Social Workers.
Great. Excellent. And the three of you.
Jeanette Cato Marino, pedestrian, bicycle advocate, and a volunteer at Caffe.
Great. Bike-a-toga and Caffe Lena.
Deborah Nicastro. I'm here with my co-founder, Aaron Smith, and we just started a nonprofit in March called Saratoga Children's Literacy League, and we're moving toward having a book bus called Clifford and Ollie's Book Bus, and we're excited to be here.
Oh, that's wonderful. So Saratoga Children's Literacy. Very great. Okay.
Al Winroth, retired engineer, retired trombone player, but once played on that stage long ago.
Cool.
Heather LaFountain with Knit.
All right, Nick. And just say what that is.
Knit's a web-based platform that connects donors and nonprofits together in a more time-efficient way.
Great. So just a neat group of people serving Saratoga in lots of different ways. And that's generally what always happens at these gatherings. And I love it. And every single time it's like a different collection of people with different interests. But I think that we're all here to try and make a healthier community. And so I would love to just pick your brain for the next few minutes here. Teddy, who's a good friend of mine, why don't we just start by you talking a little bit about how you got on the path of running UPH, and were you looking for a nonprofit to run, or was it something else that brought you through the doors of UPH?
Well, it's been a really interesting journey. I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years and was very involved in the community, with the PTA and all kinds of things with schools. So I liked that. I liked to be able to do that and make a difference in the community. And it was really interesting. I didn't realize it until years later, but they actually asked me to be the head of their cultural arts committee for the school district. So I did that, and I was responsible for bringing artists and acts into the school district for basically all the elementary schools. So that must have been my training ground, right? I did that. As a matter of fact, my children went to the Dorothy Nolan School out in Wilton, and you will see in front of the Wilton, that school, there's a statue of a cheetah. Well, the cheetah was a school mascot, and I was able to get everything donated. I hired the artist who sculpted that cheetah. So that was a long time ago. My kids are in their 40s and that. So that's really kind of a cool thing that happened, and I think that got me started on getting things for free. So, but coming to UPH, I worked for GE Financial for a number of years and ended my career with them with a company called Genworth Financial. And I was living in Richmond, Virginia, but I kept my home here. So at one point, I was able to take a transfer. I was the head of sales training for Genworth Financial, and I really didn't like living in the South. So I took a lateral move, and I came back here and worked out of my home as what they called the marketing director for their top 100 financial service agents. So basically, I drove production with them, helped them get their numbers before the end of the year. So I had given up all my volunteer responsibilities when I went down to Richmond. So I was anxious to get back involved, and I had lunch with a woman named Dean File. You folks might remember Jeff and Dean File, who said after lunch, she goes, "Oh, I've got to show you this project that I'm involved in." So up we go, and I saw this church, and it was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? It was a bomb site. It was falling down. It was a mess. And so they took me inside, and it was a mess. It was just falling down. And on the inside, I was going, oh, dear God, get me out of here. Oh, dear God, what am I doing here? And then I moved to, dear God, please don't let them ask me to be on their board. And they did, and I said yes, because I felt bad. And so that's how I got associated with UPH. It's nothing I ever planned for. I had no knowledge of preservation. I had no knowledge of running a performing arts venue. I basically didn't really know what I was doing, but we chugged along.
You know, I have heard some variation on I had no knowledge, but I chugged along from almost everybody who has been part of this conversation series. It seems to be that most people who are leading nonprofits are coming at it from a place of passion, not so much a place of training, but they find ways to take wider life experiences and apply it to what they do, and they tend to be amazing learners and very curious people. So talk a little bit about the difference between Genworth, you know, a classic, you know, more like a for-profit kind of enterprise, part of the mainstream business world, and the nonprofit sector that you work in now. What's different between the for-profit and the nonprofit?
Well, I could say what the same is. Mm-hmm. There's always meetings, and there's strategies being put in place, and doing SWOT analysis to figure out what your strengths are, your opportunities, your threats. That's all the same. I think the difference is, or it was in my experience, was the emphasis was not put on people. The emphasis was put on the numbers. People were very expendable. I remember days, or I had many days when I worked there, that I would work 16 or 18 hours because I was scared to death if I didn't get my work done, I would get fired, because I had situations happen where somebody would be in the office next to me one day, and I'd come in the next day, they would be gone. So it was a very debilitating culture. That got me on culture because I've always been about the people. And in my role at Genworth, I dealt with 1099 people. They were all insurance agents or financial services agents that were on their own. And so I just kind of focused on those people. What I did for them was I was the head of sales training, but then I also, half of the year, I coordinated their 3,000 agent conference remotely. So I did that. So people are my thing, and I think that was the real difference. And what I've tried to do I mean, there's a lot of years I had no staff, but now that I do have a staff, I try to build a culture of trust. I want people to get along. I want them to feel that they can come to me with anything, any idea. And I think that my wonderful team that I have here, we work together just to make things happen. We do whatever it takes, and I love that.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because you do have a tremendous amount of management experience. And actually, what I've discovered is that a lot of people, that's the piece that's missing for them when they come into nonprofits, because they started with like an idea, something that they really wanted to do. They want to see kids have more opportunities to learn to read and have access to books, for example. And maybe they're parents or something like that, but they haven't necessarily managed a business before. They haven't managed a team, but as their idea takes root and it grows, then suddenly you've got all these employees and they're looking at you and waiting for you to give them instructions. And you're like, figure it out. That's what I did, And that doesn't work. That is not management.
Yeah.
And so how do you work with your staff? How do you keep them inspired? And how practically do you ensure that you're all working as a team?
You guys want to answer that question? I don't know. I think I try to set a good example for them. Once again, my door is always open. I'm happy to have them come in with me if they have an idea. If we all agree that it's a good one, we go forward on it. And we try to have a little staff meeting once a week, which is pretty much unsuccessful because there's so much happening. Yeah. But we communicate with each other, so we always know what's happening, what's coming up, talk about what we could do better, and those kind of things. We also incorporate our volunteers into that. Our volunteers have actually grown tremendously because after the pandemic, we started from zero. And I feel that our volunteers are about 155 strong now, are really part of our team. So we do a good job communicating with them and encouraging them and inspiring them to do what they want. For instance, we have a hospitality committee. This poor woman came in to volunteer, and she said to me, in case you ever need to know, I used to run my own catering company.
Oh, that's such
really
a
not a good thing to say. So now she's the head of our hospitality committee that feeds all of our performers and makes it nice for them backstage. So that's a really kind of a great thing that happened to us. It takes a lot of pressure off this core team when a show is coming.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's really well organized.
I always have tried to lead by example. I am an overachiever. I have a high standard. I admit that. My kids, ask my sons, they'll tell you. But I think it's the right thing to do because I want to see us all rise together. I think that's very important.
You once said that the more positive energy you put out, the more you get back.
Oh, you put good out there, good comes back. You put poop out there, poop's coming back at you. I mean, that's basically what it is. So we always work to see a positive solution. Very interesting, and I think that they'll agree with me. We can feel negative energy when it comes in that building. I mean, we feel it, and we don't like it. So we try to discourage that.
I took a tour of UPH with you when it was, well along the path of getting cleaned up, but it was nothing like what it is right now. But, it was still a little bit of a construction zone. And I felt this bond between you and that building. And what you just talked about, like I can feel negative energy come into the place. Now, this is not something they teach you in business school. Can you talk a little bit about your sense around that? Yeah,
there's a really wonderful energy at UPH. There always has been. I can't explain it any better than that. But I basically fell in love with this building. I thought I was out of my mind, but I basically fell in love with this building, and I wanted to do whatever I could to save it. In 2009, I became the board president by default because I missed a meeting. Don't ever miss a meeting. But but also I had lost my job in the recession. And so I decided to take this on as my full-time project. And I don't regret it one bit, not one bit, because all the effort that I put in, but lots of other people did it with me. It was worth every ounce of crying. It was worth every effort that we put in. And also, what I realized afterwards, that working for a GE company was making me like not a really nice person. I was really driven to make the goals and all that. I was traveling 80% of my time. I had no life. And coming back to this and being able to get involved in that, yes, I had a hand in saving the building, but the building actually saved me. I really, truly believe that, and that's why I think I'm so dedicated to it. My kids love it as much as I do, and people that work with me, they have to like it as much as I do, or they don't work for me. But I feel that, and I feel that the team that I have now, and I know Philip feels the same way, we love this building and all it can be.
So I believe that.
It's interesting.
Because I've seen it. I've seen your response to it,
yeah. I was like, I needed leading a performing arts center for dummies book or something like that because I didn't know what I was doing. But my board was fighting. It was like in 2012, my board was fighting with each other. Half of the board wanted to shut the building down. Half of the board wanted to keep it open. I think we had like 50 cents in the bank, if that. You remember those times. It was hard. And I didn't know much, but I knew one thing, and I knew this was for sure, that you're never remembered for how you start something, but you're always remembered for how you finish it. And I did not want to be remembered as the woman that failed this project. I knew that. And so failure was not an option. That's just the way it became.
Yeah, that's what motivated us through the renovation here, because failure meant there would be no more Caffe Lena, because we had really figured out that this building is the cafe. You can't just pick up the business and do it somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. So I understand all of that, and I felt it myself, but that doesn't mean that every day I wake up like feeling filled with spiritual energy for this place and ready to just come like running through the door, giving positive energy and light into the world. So I'm going to use a car metaphor here, thinking about a day at work. What makes you feel like it's a freezing cold winter morning and the engine has a couple 100,000 miles on it and it seems like the oil filter might be clogged? How do you turn things around?
I don't know. I'm a very positive person, and they can attest to this. I'm like up like a pup smiling every morning. So that's just the way that is. But I try to focus on the good. If there's something bothering me, I focus on the good. Sometimes if somebody or something is bothering me, I start the day by writing down 10 things that I like about them. And I mean, it sounds hokey, it sounds corny, but guess what? It works. It changes your whole mindset, and then you just go forward. If I'm having trouble with one thing, I focus on something else that I can make a difference on. Honestly can tell you I don't have many bad days there. And also I have a wonderful team that can pick up, or they hold me up. The worst day ever was the day we shut down the building for COVID. That was the worst day ever. And I'm sure you can agree with that too.
But didn't you think it was going to be like a month?
Yeah, we thought it was going to be like 6 to 8 weeks, but ha. But in the meantime, I went to the hall. I cried every day. I sat in that balcony and I bawled my eyes out every day because we had worked so hard to get it to where it was. And I was just like, I don't understand this. How could this have happened? How did this happen? We did everything right, Yeah. And it took me a while to get over that, I went every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so often those moments where you just sort of freeze and break down, not so much that one, but it's fear, I think, lots of times. And the opposite of fear is hope. So when you put out all of those like positives about the person or positives about the situation, you're just saying, okay, that's what fear feels and looks like, and this is what hope feels like, and where would I rather spend my day? So sometimes there are days, though, when like it's like eating dessert is like the most exciting thing, you know, and you just kind of can't believe the blessing of being in that position. What brings that about for you?
Oh, when I know I have a successful fundraising event coming up. They know I am like on fire because I see it. I know it's going to be good. And all the details have done, all the prep has been done, and you ask them, I'm on fire. And it works. I can remember when we were raising money for the campaign, we had a fundraising night, and our goal was like $1.1 million we wanted to raise that night. And so going into this, you have to have shills in the audience, right? Well, we only knew one person that was going to stand up and raise their hand. And it was like, okay, so we get in there. I never doubted it for 1 second. Now, I knew we were going to do it, and we got in there, and we started the thing, and I'm happy to tell you we raised $1.1 million in a half an hour. It was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Then we went all downstairs and drank. But it was, I don't know if it's the law of attraction or what. I live that. But it was awesome. I knew it. I knew it was going to be successful. So I was pretty jazzed. And then I'm really jazzed when we have a show come in that I know is going to sell out or almost sell out, because it is, after what we've been through, all the bad times, it's just so fulfilling for me and satisfying to see that place full. Oh, it's crazy. It's wonderful. And to hear people say nice things about it.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're still watching the numbers like you got trained to do in business. Mm-hmm. And everybody, I think, also who has sat in your chair has talked a little bit about that realization that the business part of it really counts, and you can't just talk your way around that.
No.
But what do you think it is that has motivated people to fund this vision of UPH to the tune of, is it 10 million?
Or $14 million.
$14 mm-hmm. million. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a pretty small community. What inspires people to fund that project?
So there's a couple of things I can answer to that question. I think, right from the beginning I was fundraising for this, and people were like, yeah, but they didn't believe in what the building could be because the architectural design had been done wrong. It was just a group of people who really cared about Saratoga, who cared about the historical and architectural importance of this building, and they were not professional fundraisers or anything like that. So I think after time, people thought that I would just kind of fade away, and I never did. I never changed my story. I was always there. I will tell you the reason why people finally decided to support what we were doing was when we became an affiliate of Proctors, because Proctors came in with the expertise to run this building, to help design this building for flow of people, to do the programming, do the marketing. That's when things changed. We got a new architect, we changed the design of the building, and that's when the people with a lot of money looked at that design, saw that it would work, and supported us. That was a big thing. I could not have ever done this on my own without Proctors. And I'm not saying that because Philip's in the room. It's the truth. It's the God's honest truth. They loved the building from the get-go. So they knew that it was a broken down building, but they knew that they could fix it so it could work. And that was very empowering. It was so interesting. I used to say to the board when it wasn't formalized with us, but it was on the way to being formalized between Proctors and UPH. And I used to say to the board, hey, you know what? We used to be the kid on the street that had cooties. Now we're the kids on the street that have a new swimming pool. It was true. People wanted to be our friend, and it was awesome. And Proctors never did anything in our building performance-wise until we opened on February 29th of 2020. And that was a really smart thing. So, yeah. But that's, I think, and our passion, our belief in what it could be. I know it finally made sense to downtown because people that were designing this town were trying to design this city as a small, sophisticated city in the country that retired and other people who had a lot of discretionary income could come to and live. They can work, they can live downtown, they can walk to dinner, they can walk to the grocery store, all that. What was missing was a year-round downtown cultural center. Not to say that yours isn't, but ours is bigger and it's right downtown. Mm-hmm. And that's what they liked. They saw that that would be a huge economic driver in the community, and I believe that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think are the biggest challenges that are facing arts organizations in just the landscape these days?
I think fundraising. Mm-hmm. Funding is a huge challenge, I think. We talk about it all the time, nonstop all the time. Whether it is corporate sponsorships or individual memberships or donations or any kind of a campaign we're going to run. It's changed since before COVID. Interesting, looking back, there's a lot of money before COVID. I mean, I could sell sponsorships like ice cream cones. I mean, and it's not that way anymore. It's gotten a lot harder. I also think, and maybe you can speak to this, getting people to come back in full. Mm-hmm. is different. We sometimes do a lot of diverse programming that's new. People may not know about it, but after having gone through the mask and the temperatures and the COVID thing and the I think they're coming out of that. It makes me happy to see our numbers are going up. Every show makes me very, very happy. Yeah. And I think it will continue. I'm not fearful of that. Mm-hmm. But would you agree with that? That getting people to come out of their pajamas and come out?
2023 finally brought us back to 2019. Yeah. I thought that 2022 was, and I thought that 2022 was not that bad, but it was this summer that I was like, oh, actually everything's okay now, and it wasn't until this summer. Yeah. And before that, it was just like chasing after one ticket at a time. It felt like I had to convince every single person who came to come. There was just nothing easy about it, just pushing that stone uphill.
Yeah, I challenge people from the stage. I challenge them to come to a show of a performer that they've never seen before. Yeah. Because I'm here to tell you what, I go to every show because I've been through the bad times, so now I want to be there for all the good times, right? I've never been disappointed in anything that's been on that stage. And I tell them, try it. It's not like you're paying a $200 ticket price. Our ticket prices are extremely reasonable. But give it a try. Just come and give us a try. And hopefully they're listening they're hearing that.
Yeah, that's another big challenge for arts, I think.
You have a diverse programming. Your programming has changed tremendously since before pandemic. So
since before renovation and some extent pandemic. Teddy, like this final quarter of my interview is just all usually about how do you address burnout or things like that. So I'm going to just throw that out the window because you don't know what that word means.
Sometimes.
But I will just say, we're constantly told that we're doing everything. We work so hard. There's one more thing that we're supposed to do: find work-life balance. And you're like, don't tell me I have to do that too. I just want to work all the time. It sometimes seems like you're 24/7 UPH, but talk about that. Do you have other things? How do you
my friends tell me I'm married to the building, which I hate it when they say that, but it's probably true. But yeah, what I've learned is I become very selfish of my time. Mm-hmm. When I have a day off or I take a day off, I'm really selfish with my time because there's constantly an invitation and I can't do that. I need to replenish myself. So people that know me know I love to cook. And if anything is ever wrong, if I'm really bothered by something, there's a lot of food coming out of that kitchen because I find that it's like therapy for me. You know, I love it. I also have been a horsewoman my entire life, and I've ridden almost my entire life. And so, you know, it's interesting. When the COVID hit, the first day it hit, I found myself out on Fitch Road, parked at McMahon's Thoroughbred Farm, just sitting there looking, being among the horses, being next to the horses. It was just like, I didn't even think about it. That's just where I went. Yeah. It was a safe place for me, you know. Mm-hmm. And I love the horses, and I don't ride much anymore, but I love them. I also love to sail boats, and I have a kayak. I love to go out on my kayak. I find that to be really wonderful for me for relaxing because, you know, you just get in that thing and let the current take you where it wants to. You know, it's just, I don't have to think about it. It's great. And
how about?
I do. So I played the piano as a young girl until I was 16. I was really quite good, and I was supposed to give a recital. I mean, this was like Rachmaninoff and Chopin. And then I broke my leg on a toboggan like the week before that happened. So I was 16. And so I never had the recital because I was laid up for a really long time with my leg. And when I came out of it, since I turned 16, my father bought me my first car, and it was a Fiat Spider red convertible. And I got that cast off. I got in that car. I was gone. I never did it again. I was like out of there. So one of my bucket list items in recent years was to learn how to play the piano again. So somebody gave me this crappy upright piano, and I called Chuck Lamb from Brubeck Brothers and asked him if he would consider being my teacher, and he did. So for 3 years before the pandemic, I fulfilled my bucket list item, and I took piano lessons from Chuck, which was so fabulous. It was like a gift from heaven for me. We had fun. He was great. I have thousands of videos of his hands because I would video what he was teaching me so I could remember it. But then the pandemic hit, and it was really too hard to do it over Zoom. So we will pick it up again. I would love to pick it up again. But that's what I do for me.
Yeah.
I also, not to brag, but I'm about to be a first-time grandma within the next...
to be.
Any day. So I'm looking forward to being able to get into that part of my life a little bit, too. So
Wow.
I think that'll be wonderful, yeah.
Okay, so one secret ingredient to Teddy Foster is boundless energy. Yes, boundless energy. So thank you very much. We've talked for about a half hour. Before we end the conversation, I guess I always like to I want to give you an opportunity to say, do you have a question for other nonprofit leaders, and or do you have a piece of advice for people who are considering the nonprofit sector as a career?
Well, I'll start with the advice part first. I think it's all about your attitude going into a nonprofit, because you can't silo yourself in one position. You have to be willing to do it all and do anything. And you know that. That's what you do. You just got to be willing to do it all. You also have to be willing to take your lumps and keep on going. Right? The question I have, and I'm so happy to see so many other organizations in the room, is collaboration. How do you like to collaborate? How would you like to collaborate with us? I feel collaboration is the key. We collaborate. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sarah's been wonderful to me coming into this industry because I knew nothing. And she helped me. She was like, pat me on the back and say, yeah, no, don't do that, do this.
By the way, teach me how to fundraise.
And so I want to know how you want to collaborate. We would love to have those conversations and get you in our building and see what we could do to help each other. That's really my question. I don't purport to be the expert on anything that's in this industry, but I have a passion for it, and we can figure out how to make it work. That's how I think about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. So we could talk about that when we turn off the mics. But let me just ask, does anybody have a question for Teddy that they wish that I had asked? Yes.
Thank you so much for taking time with us experience with the school systems and you did that?
So,
Experience. He's from Glove Theater asking about Teddy's experience with the school system.
so that was way back in the day, right? So I was just a member of the PTA, and they were looking to do more arts programming, like in the art rooms with the kids. So I said, well, I'll help with that. So I started to help with that and try to think of things that we could do within the community. And then they asked me if I would like to go to a conference. And I went to, it was a local arts and schools conference. And I met people and started to talk with them and then got really creative about what we could do with them. Using your imagination is awesome, and it's key if you can pull that off. And so I met a man named Colin Coots, who was he was an artist, and he's primarily an equine artist, and he's also a sculptor. So started talking to him about bringing him in to the school, which we did. He came in and he did arts classes with every grade. He did arts classes with, and then I said, well, what if we did something with the mascot? So that's how that all happened, and it was very primitive back then, but that's how it worked. And then that was just for Dorothy Nolan, but we did other things in other schools too, and I just don't remember what they are right now. But it's different now, but it's good. It's a great way to get into them.
Great.
And the kids loved it. You know, I've noticed that it's so interesting to me. There's an organization in town called Saratoga Sponsor a Scholar. And we had a board member. She's not on our board anymore, but she was a mentor for the scholars. And she would bring these mostly girls that, you know, are looking for a mentor to help them do well in school and mentor them through. But many of them had never been to a performance of anything before. And she would bring 2 or 3 of them to a show. It was so fabulous for me to watch the reaction of these kids to it was their first music show ever or whatever. And I'm sure you've experienced that here too. That's fabulous. And so it doesn't have to be school district related. It can be something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. You can take one more if there's another one. It looks like no. So, all right. So we're going to shut off the mics and feel free to help yourself to a cup of coffee or tea or grab a cookie. And we've got the space for another 20 minutes or so, and then it's Rockmont Record Club times. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Who's tonight, Chuck?
Beatles Rubber Soul.
Oh, boy.
Beatles Rubber Soul tonight.
I think I know somebody.
Great. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I hope it was.